Now, there have been cases of parents who are mentally competent, refusing to consent to either life-saving treatments or important vaccinations for children who are too young to make decisions from themselves. So parents, they are of sound mind, but they refuse to give consent to life-saving treatments, or like the recent anti-COVID vaccination. They refuse to allow their children to take it, and these children are too young to make decisions for themselves. Now, in some cases, the state, means the state, like state of WA, the state has insisted, based on expert medical advice, that these children be given treatments or vaccinations against their parents' wishes, and has enforced this accordingly. Okay? So the state say, no, we are taking over, we will enforce this, the child must go through this treatment, or the child must receive the anti-COVID vaccination. Now, the question is this: what is the Bible's stand on this? Should parents have the final say regardless, as God has put children under the authority of parents? So should the Bible, that's because the Bible says, well, children are under parents' authority, so should parents have the final say, since God put them under the authority of their parents? But in doing so, it will put the child's lives at risk. Or should the state intervene and subvert parental authority for the protection of the child? All right? So, should we as Christians, how should we think? How should we think? Yes, parents' authority, so parents should have the final say, or no, state should intervene and subvert parental authority for the protection of the child. Very difficult one, right? Now, I'd rather deal with this because it may come here in a big way. I don't know. Maybe some parents are already against, but in some states, some countries, this is a big thing. So I'd rather we learn it now and you understand the biblical principle. What do you think? Sujin, you give these jabs, right? Right, Sujin, so the child comes in. You just read, right? The husband went to punch this nurse, and told the nurse, you did not get my permission as a husband. Why do you give my wife the anti-COVID jab? Then punched her, and she was all injured, right? So you better wear face masks, metal masks to church to work.
In this sort of situation, if the state has already set these regulations, we as Christians we need to abide by the civil law. Considering also the fact that having this vaccination is not something simple, so we need to abide by it. As for the case whereby, if let's say it's not compulsory, the government hasn't implemented such regulations, then we should operate on the basis of preservation of life. If this vaccine will help prevent, or the treatment will help prevent the children from dire consequences, then the parents should make that the right choice.
Okay, so number one, because it's a civil law, so we should abide by government's civil law, because this is not a sinful law. Right? This is not a sinful law. It's a law to protect the child and to put him through certain treatment that will save his life, prevent him from dying from COVID-19 with the jab. So it's not a sinful law, and therefore we should abide by it. And then the second one that is cited is, now even there is no legal requirement, the Christian should always think from the basis of preserving of life. All right, it fits into what Abigail did, right? Preservation of life, and what she was going to do was not something that God commands against, and it's not sinful. In fact, it's something that God expects. That's how the children of Israel should live. So in this case, it should not be that the Christian feel, no, it is wrong for the state to have such laws, but still you have the problem of parental authority. Still have the problem of parental authority. Eugene, what do you think? So are we then teaching children and teaching and going against the fifth commandment?
No, I think because it is a regulation also, and that is already that's what the government wants us to do. And just like if your parents want you to do something like steal or something, you can't obey that because stealing is a crime.
All right, so no, we are not going against the fifth commandment, because if, for example, the parents ask you to steal or to lie, means do something that is sinful, then you do not need to obey, correct? Just like Abigail's case, you do not need to obey. Now, because there are two parts to this question, one is life-saving treatment or important vaccination, life-saving treatment. All right, so the Bible's principle, even when it comes to the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath, Christ made it very clear. The lesson is preservation of life. It is always meant for the good of men. That is why firemen, doctors, policemen, people who are nurses, people involved in saving lives, they are not sinning against God's commandments when they are called to work, to act on that day, correct? So you do not break one commandment to obey another. There is no inconsistency, because this is life-saving. These are vaccinations that have been based on expert medical advice needed, right? So the child is not in the sense saying, I disobey you, but preservation of life, the child acts, and we follow what the government, who does not put up a sinful law as well. Okay? Now, so for example, okay, now this is the same situation where there are child abuse cases. When there are child abuse, what happens? What does the government do? They step in to take the child away. Are you taking the child away from parental authority? And the parents say, no, you stay at home. Should the child go with the person? Should Christians, if you're the policeman, should you take the child away? It's the same principle. You should, because it is preservation of life. All right? It is not disobedience to the fifth commandment. Preservation of life, and the child needs to be protected. And the parents are not doing something right. Are not doing something right. Okay, so yes, I think that's how I would answer this question. So this will be the biblical answer, I believe, and the church should understand there is no contradiction in breaking any laws at all. All right? Okay, time's up. Let us pray. What do we have here? Top 5 reasons why church dropouts, what church dropouts say, why they stop attending church. Now, please remember 66% of, well, I take the American view, they are the most readily available results. They stop attending church at least a year after turning 18. So from